He struck the German shepherd in a fit of rage, not knowing the dog had once saved soldiers' lives. He was just a stray, the biker told himself, until he saw the dog's eyes. And something broke inside. How could anyone hurt an animal that had already given everything? In a stormy alley, a reckless biker attacked a dog he thought was a nuisance, but the wounded animal turned out to be a decorated canine veteran, deeply bonded to a grieving war hero. Was this just cruelty, or the start of an unexpected redemption? This is the story of loyalty, healing, and second chances. Let's dive into it. The rain fell in sheets that night, a relentless cadence on cracked asphalt and neon signs. A lone street lamp flickered above a deserted stretch of urban road, while dark figures blurred in its intermittent glow. At the center of that scene roared a heavy motorcycle, a chrome beast ridden by Cameron Hayes, known to many on these streets as simply Cam. He was lean, with eyes that burned with a turbulent mix of anger and sorrow, his leather jacket as weathered as the scars hidden beneath. Cam's motorcycle screeched to a halt outside an abandoned warehouse, its engine's rumble echoing through the night. He stepped off with a heaviness that betrayed more than just physical weariness. His boots splashed in puddles as he strode across the cracked pavement, restless and searching for an enemy to confront. In the midst of his inner torment, his gaze landed on a figure that made his heart lurch unexpectedly. A large, alert German shepherd standing near a parked car, its coat gleaming with health and pride, even in the gloom. Something about that animal's posture, its narrowed eyes and subtle guard, triggered an unexplained fury within Cam. Perhaps it reminded him of authority, of a past he had tried desperately to forget. Without fully understanding what compelled him, Cam advanced, his jaw set and fists clenched. In a blur of motion that mirrored his own bottled rage, he struck out at the animal. His hand came down in a brutal swing, catching the German shepherd on the side of its muzzle. The dog yelped, a cry that shattered the night's deceptive silence, and darted away, fear and pain mingling in its eyes. But this was no random stray or misbehaving pet. The German shepherd, known as Valor, was no ordinary animal. The formidable companion had served dutifully beside a decorated veteran, and his loyalty and spirit were etched in every line of his determined stance. Before Cam could process his own actions, a voice rang out, low and ferocious like a roar from past battles. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" From the shadows of the adjacent alley emerged a man in a faded navy jacket, his posture rigid yet controlled. His eyes, steady and piercing, locked onto Cam's with the intensity of a man who'd endured too much loss and hardship. This was Sergeant Daniel "Danny" Morgan, a decorated veteran whose life had been irrevocably changed by the horrors of war, and whose best friend and partner in service was Valor. Cam staggered, momentarily stunned by Danny's sudden appearance. The rain mingled with the anger in his blood, and for a fleeting second, everything slowed. "Mind your own business," Cam spat, though his words faltered under the weight of Danny's unwavering gaze. "That may be so," Danny replied, stepping closer, his voice soft but resolute. "But that dog is my partner, Valor. You just hurt him." A sharp twist of guilt and defiance warred within Cam. Memories of long-lost innocence surged, mixing with years of pent-up rage that had found a target in an unwilling, innocent creature. "I'm sorry. What are you—" Cam began, but the sincerity in his apology sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Sorry doesn't undo the hurt," Danny said evenly, his tone laced with the grief and responsibility of his shared past with Valor. "That dog isn't just a pet, son. He served with me, saved lives when my squad and I were out there facing hell on Earth." His eyes shimmered with controlled emotion as he spoke. "He's been my friend, my anchor. I won't let anybody, hurt him." For a moment, Cam's mind flickered with images from his past, a fractured mosaic of dim childhood memories, and later, nights filled with reckless abandon. He remembered his father's heavy hand, the constant whisper of disappointment, and the endless nights on his bike after a day marred by failures. In every reckless moment of anger, He'd been lashing out at shadows, never aware that he was also shattering the fragile hopes of those who never deserved his wrath. Cam started, his voice quivering as he tried to bridge the chasm between his actions and his remorse. I thought it was just another stray, you know? A dog meant to mark its territory, a symbol of authority. His words trailed off as he realized how patently ridiculous the excuse sounded, even to himself. No excuse for inflicting pain, Danny countered, his tone softening slightly as he saw the conflict raging behind Cam's eyes. I served alongside Valor, and I've seen more brutality than most could imagine. The scars you think you hide on the outside, they're just reflections of battles you've never admitted you've fought. He paused, glancing down at Valor, who had limped away under the harsh glow of the street lamp. That dog's story isn't common. He's seen more action and faced more danger than you'd ever dare imagine. In that charged silence, the rain seemed to echo the bitter cadence of each life's struggle, a torrent washing away sins and secrets. Later, after Danny had taken Valor, injured but clinging to life, to a waiting ambulance, Cam was left amid the neon-doused puddles, a swirl of regret and confusion stirring within him. The policeman's stern words and the veteran's raw sorrow played on endless loop in his head. His heart pounded in his ears as he retreated to a deserted corner of the city, sitting on the cold, wet curb, while the night's silence screamed with his inner torment. Hours later, in the sterile brightness of a hospital waiting room, Cam found himself seated on a bench, nursing a trembling cup of coffee. His eyes kept drifting to a television mounted in the corner, where news snippets reported on a highly decorated canine injured under mysterious circumstances. The voiceover praised Valor's storied record in combat and rescue missions, rescues in lands far removed from the quiet despair of this hospital corridor. The realization struck Cam like a physical blow. This was no mere stray. Valor was a living testament to honor, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty, qualities that Cam thought he'd long outgrown. And then it hit him. His actions had not only hurt a creature that symbolized hope to one man, but had also deeply wounded the heart of a hero who had fought for his country and for his fellow soldiers. Unable to bear the weight of his guilt in silence, Cam took a deep breath and resolved to make amends. He needed to confront Danny, not merely as a sworn adversary or a victim, but as someone whose reckless actions had wrought pain. He struggled with the idea of approaching a decorated veteran whose life was defined by honor and service, but his need for redemption outweighed his fear. That afternoon, Cam returned to the hospital, his battered pride overshadowed by a fragile hope that he could somehow repair the damage. He found Danny in a quiet corner, away from the sterile bustle of doctors and nurses, his weathered face etched with lines of loss and care. Danny's eyes were distant for a moment, as if he were wrestling with memories of far-off battlefields before he caught sight of Cam. "Danny," Cam started hesitantly, voice raw with remorse. I'm here to apologize. I did something unforgivable. I attacked Valor when I shouldn't have." He rubbed his hands together, trying to steady the unsteady cadence of his confession. "I lost my damn mind for a moment, and I was wrong. I was a fool." Danny's gaze met his, a storm of emotions swirling behind a mask of stoicism. "You're lucky, Cam," he replied, his tone restrained but heavy with meaning. "Lucky that the damage wasn't irreversible." His words cut through the tension like a knife, but they were not harsh. They were laced with the sorrow of someone who had seen too much loss. "You have any idea what that dog meant to me?" Danny continued, his voice softening as he recalled memories of Valor's valor on fields of conflict and chaotic rescue missions. "Valor wasn't just a dog. He was my partner, my guardian, my friend who saved lives, mine included. Every medal, every honor he received was a testament to both his sacrifice and the battles we fought together." A long, painful silence stretched between them as Cam absorbed the gravity of his mistake. I never considered that behind every bruised reputation, behind every symbol of authority, there's a story. I'm so sorry, Danny. I never meant to hurt what you hold dear. Danny's eyes softened, though the residue of anger lingered like a stubborn shadow. And what did you expect, Cam? That you could just lash out without consequence? We all have our demons. Some of us hide behind helmets and medals, some of us behind leather jackets and speeding bikes. But we're all responsible for the wounds we inflict, whether they're on flesh or soul. In the dim light of a nearly empty hospital corridor, Danny's words began to unravel layers of Cam's own buried pain. Slowly, he opened up about his past, a childhood marked by abuse, the loss of a father he never truly knew how to love, and a string of reckless decisions meant to cover up the inner scars. You know, Danny, Cam said softly, his voice shaking as he confessed, I wasn't always like this. I had a dog once. He was my best friend. I trusted him with everything, even my vulnerabilities. Danny's posture slackened momentarily, as if he too were weighed down by memories of a lost comrade. What happened to your dog? He asked quietly. Cam's eyes flickered with anguish. He died. It wasn't an accident, not really. I pushed him away when I needed him most, and now I see that I did the same with people who cared. I guess I became numb, my anger a shield. His voice trailed off into a deep, remorseful silence that hung between them. Danny nodded slowly, understanding too well the corrosive nature of guilt and regret. Valor saved me from drowning in my own despair. He was there when I returned home, broken and haunted. And when I lost him in a field operation, it wasn't just his life I lost. It was a part of my soul. I'd give anything to have him by my side again. What do you expect from me, Danny? Cam pleaded, the raw vulnerability in his voice an unfamiliar sensation. I can't undo what I did, but I need to try. I need to learn from this. I want to honor your friend, to do something, anything, to make it right. Danny regarded him for a long moment, his eyes searching Cam's face, as if weighing the sincerity behind each word. Redemption isn't granted by a simple apology, Cam. It's earned through actions, through acknowledging pain and taking steps to heal it. Not just in yourself, but in those you hurt. His voice softened further. I'm not asking for miracles. I'm asking you to look at the wreckage you've left behind and to help rebuild what can still be saved. In the days that followed, Cam began a slow and painful journey toward making amends. He visited the animal hospital where Valor was receiving treatment and, with hesitation and trembling hands, offered his help to staff and volunteers. At first, he was met with suspicion and anger by those who knew Valor's significance. Yet over time, his quiet persistence began to chip away at the impenetrable wall of bitterness. Late one evening, as autumn rains dampened the hospital's quiet corridors, Cam found himself in a small, shared break room with Danny and a few compassionate nurses. The air was heavy with unspoken memories. Cam carefully recounted the day's events in a halting but honest confession. I know I can't ask for forgiveness, he said softly, but I'm going to spend my time here trying to make up for my mistakes. I'll do whatever it takes, cleaning up, comforting the patients, supporting the staff, so that maybe one day I can be less of a burden on the world. Danny listened without interruption. His eyes were weary, yet compassionate. It's not an easy road, Cam, he replied. But if you're willing to walk it, then perhaps there's some hope, not just for you, but for all of us. Healing isn't linear. Sometimes it's a spiral, taking us back to where we need to be before moving forward. In a quiet moment one morning, as Cam scrubbed the floor near the animal ward and the soft hum of hospital machinery played in the background, he almost believed that maybe he could change. Every bruise, every apology, every tear he shed was a step toward understanding that the violence he'd inflicted had consequences beyond his immediate awareness. He began to attend sessions with a grief counselor recommended by one of the nurses, a woman named Marisol, who had a gentle but firm way of coaxing the truth from buried memories. During one intense session, Cam recounted in detail the day he'd lost his own dog, a story of neglect, anger, and eventual regret. "I thought that lashing out would numb everything," he whispered, "but all it did was magnify the emptiness. I see now that in hurting something innocent, I hurt myself more than I ever imagined." Marisol's eyes softened. "Sometimes our deepest regrets become the foundation for our future compassion, Cam. You have a chance to learn from this pain. Valor isn't just a symbol of duty and sacrifice. He's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is an opportunity to choose a better path." Weeks later, as the golden hues of late afternoon filtered through the hospital windows, a twist of fate unfolded in a manner almost cinematic in its subtle grace. Danny, who had been quietly overseeing Valor's recovery, received news that shook him to his core. Valor, it turned out, wasn't just any service dog. He was slated for a memorial ceremony honoring his contributions during a high-profile rescue operation abroad. The ceremony was to be held in less than a week, and Valor's role was integral to preserving the legacy of countless lives saved. When Danny shared the news with Cam, his voice wavered with both pride and the knowledge of the risks Valor had taken. "Valor is more than a dog," he said, almost to himself, as he pored over old photographs and commendation letters. "He's a living reminder of the courage it takes to stand in the face of fear, to save lives even when your own is on the line." Cam listened with rapt attention. The accolades, the medals, the testimonials, all of it painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. It was then that Cam realized the magnitude of his previous actions. "I was so blind," he murmured, his voice thick with shame. "I didn't see that what I was attacking wasn't just a piece of fur and bone, but the embodiment of bravery and sacrifice." Danny's eyes locked onto Cam's. "Exactly," he said gently. "We all have pasts we'd rather not face. The mistakes, the pain. But when we hurt something like Valor, we're not just hurting an animal. We're wounding the very soul of our community, the bond between a veteran and his partner, the embodiment of honor that we so desperately need in times like these." In the days leading up to the memorial ceremony, Cam dedicated himself wholeheartedly to the work at the hospital. Under Danny's watchful guidance, he learned more than just the technicalities of caring for injured animals. He learned the value of patience, empathy, and understanding. Over quiet dinners in the staff lounge and hushed conversations in the shadowed corridors, Cam began to see Danny not as a figure of authority, but as a man whose scars, both visible and hidden, spoke of battles fought on distant fields and right here in the heart of the city. One crisp morning, as the first hints of winter began to grace the streets, Danny approached Cam in the hospital garden, a small patch of green amid sterile walls. "I have something to ask of you," Danny said, his tone measured yet laden with expectation. Cam's breath caught in his throat. "Anything, Danny." Taking a slow, deliberate breath, Danny continued. "I want you to be part of Valor's tribute. I know what happened was unforgivable, and yet I also see your willingness to change. I'd like you to help me organize this ceremony, to honor not just Valor, but the idea of second chances, and the strength it takes to rise from our mistakes." The invitation left Cam both humbled and overwhelmed. Danny, I don't know what to say. I'm not worthy of this honor." Danny placed a firm hand on Cam's shoulder. "Redemption isn't about worthiness. It's about acknowledging where we went wrong and making a commitment to be better. This isn't just about Valor. It's about all of us who've hurt someone and now yearn for forgiveness. I believe you can help show others that change is possible." The day of the memorial ceremony arrived under a slate sky, the air crisp and tinged with a promise of renewal. A modest crowd had gathered in a public park near the hospital, where small flags fluttered and soft music played in the background. Danny, dressed in a simple yet dignified suit, stood by a memorial table adorned with photos, medals, and cherished mementos that told the story of valor's heroics. The atmosphere was heavy with reverence and the bittersweet taste of remembrance. Cam, now more composed and reflective than the man he'd once been, helped Danny arrange chairs and place bouquets of wildflowers near the display. As the crowd hushed, Danny stepped forward, his voice echoing with emotion and conviction. "Today," Danny began, "we gather not only to honor valor, but to celebrate what he represents: courage, sacrifice, and the resilience of the human spirit in our darkest hours. Valor's journey is one of service and loyalty, and his bond with me has been a guiding light in moments when I believed I'd lost my way." There was a pause as Danny's eyes swept across the assembled crowd, and then he continued, "We all have moments we regret, actions we wish we could take back, but in our willingness to confront those mistakes, in our search for redemption, lies the true measure of a person. Today, I ask you all to remember that second chances aren't given lightly. They're earned through pain, reflection, and the commitment to change." The audience listened, rapt and introspective. As Danny spoke, Cam felt the heavy weight of his earlier transgressions lift incrementally, replaced by a resolve to forge a better future, not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever stumbled and found the courage to rise again. During a quiet moment after the ceremony, Danny approached Cam, his eyes soft with unspoken understanding. "Thank you for being here," he said, "for taking a step that many would never dare to take. I see in you the promise of change." Cam's voice was thick with gratitude and remorse in equal measure. "I'll never forget what I did, and I'll carry that with me as long as I live. But I promise, I'll do everything I can to ensure that my past doesn't define my future. Valor's story, your story, and everyone else's, is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's a path back to the light." In the weeks and months that followed, Cam became a regular presence at the hospital and at community centers that worked with veterans and trauma survivors alike. The transformation that had begun that stormy night continued to unfold slowly, one day at a time. His hands, once quick to inflict pain, now worked tirelessly to care for injured animals and comfort those who had lost hope. His interactions with Danny deepened into a unique friendship built on mutual respect and the shared understanding of how past mistakes can pave the way for future growth. One chilly evening, as Cam and Danny sat side by side on a park bench beneath a canopy of amber leaves, the night air filled with the sound of distant traffic and whispered memories, Cam spoke softly. "Sometimes I wonder if we're all just trying to outrun our own demons. For years, I was so angry that I never stopped to see what hurt was in my heart. I thought violence was the answer, but it only led to more pain." Danny nodded slowly, his gaze distant. "I've carried the scars of war and loss with me for a long time," he said. "Valor helped me understand that those scars don't have to be a prison. We can learn from them, let them teach us the value of compassion." Their voices mingled with the rustle of leaves and the gentle murmur of the city, a symphony of healing, however tentative, echoing in the cool night air. In that moment, Cam realized that his story, like Valor's, was not defined by a single act of violence or regret. It was continuously written in the choices made every day thereafter. He had learned that redemption wasn't found in the absence of mistakes, but in the courage to face them, to learn, and ultimately, to serve a greater purpose. As the night deepened and stars emerged shyly through the urban haze, Cam turned to Danny with a determined look. "Maybe our scars are reminders that we have lived, that we have loved and lost, and that through our pain, we can create beauty, hope, and change. I'm going to keep trying, Danny. I'm going to honor what valor means to you and to all of us." Danny smiled, a warm, bittersweet smile that spoke of battles faced and bridges rebuilt. That's all any of us can do, Cam. We honor our past, not by dwelling on what's been lost, but by taking every ounce of strength we have and building something meaningful out of it. In the quiet after the ceremony, amidst scattered conversations and the soft glow of twilight, a final message resonated, a reminder that every act, no matter how misguided at first, carries the potential for redemption if met with honesty and compassion. Cam's journey, punctuated by moments of anger, sorrow, and eventual awakening, became a testament to the human capacity for change. The story of that fateful night, a night when a biker's impulse collided with a sacred bond, served as an enduring parable. Never judge the symbols of sacrifice with a single rash act. Behind every badge, every scar, lies a story of bravery and deep, unyielding love. And within each of us, the potential for redemption awaits, if only we have the courage to seek it. As the park slowly emptied and the lights dimmed, the voices of Cam and Danny continued in echoing whispers. Their dialogue was not merely a conversation between two men, but a reminder to all who listened. In every mistake, there is an opportunity to learn. In every act of violence, there is the potential for healing, if we have the strength to forgive ourselves and to build bridges where once there were only walls. For those who would come after, the tale of valor, the decorated canine, and the man who sought to right his wrongs would be passed on, a cinematic drama of raw emotion, difficult truths, and the unwavering belief that even the darkest night can give way to a dawn of hope. In reflecting on this story, consider how our mistakes may define us for a moment, but they need not decide our future. Let us be inspired to look beyond our failures and see in each act of redemption the chance to transform hurt into healing, anger into understanding, and isolation into community. The journey to redemption is not an easy road, but it is one we all must travel, guided by the light of compassion and the power of forgiveness. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.